Hello everyone, welcome back. In the last lesson, we're trying to add the utility of security as well as the security service. Okay, so last time we left at this user repository thing, which is used to access the database. So in this lesson, let's go ahead and continue to develop those. First, we need to create a new folder, and we're gonna call it repository. And within this repository, we're going to create a new interface. This is called user repository. This extends the CRUD repository, user, and long. We're going to define some method. First one is find by username, which returns a user by username passed to the parameter. And then we're gonna have defined by email, and also find all, which returns a list of users. Okay. So in case you're not familiar with the CRUD repository, so first of all, you need to know that this is an interface. It's not a concrete class, okay? And surprisingly, we just need to define this interface, and then we can use this repository, user repository. Why? That's because we are extending from the CRUD repository. Basically, it's some kind of interface defined by Spring. And Spring will help us to generate a concrete class by the time Spring starts to run. And also, Spring is smart enough to take a look at each of the method name. Okay, so for example, he knows that find by is a keyword. Okay, this means he's gonna use the search method. And find by what? By username. So Spring will assume this username is a field variable in our class. What class? The user class. So that's how we specify that. We're extending the CRUD repository, passing the class name because we're dealing with user class. Okay, that's why we call it user repository as the class name. And also this long is the primary key type. So if we come back to our domain and take a look at the user class, we have the ID, the primary key specified as the long type. And a side note here, long and this long are different. Okay, so this is the primitive type in Java. Basically, it's a long type. And this uppercase L long is a wrapper class or wrapper type of this long. And this is not a primitive type, it's a class. So converting from this long to this long or the other way around is called auto wrapping or auto unwrapping, which are taken care of by Java automatically. Okay. So this is just a side note, and there are more stories going on with that. If you're interested, you can go search online to find that. This is not a course about Java, so I'm just gonna keep it simple. And after that, Spring will create a method for find by username, which will return a user, as well as this find by email. Okay, find all is pretty much the same idea. So if we look at the CRUD repository up, so we know that this CRUD repository is interface for generic CRUD operation on a repository for a specific type. And it has a bunch of instance methods available: count, delete, find all, like we just did, and find one. And also we can um, specify the query methods like something find by last name. Okay, so if you're interested, go through the documentation here to get a more understanding on this part. But anyway, we have the user repository available. We should be able to come back to our user security service and import a package, so the error should be gone, as well as the configuration. We can import the security service. So far we have added a bunch of stuff into our system, and the main purpose is just to establish the backend configuration for our security. And we are using the database as authentication resources to get a username and password. So we need to do some configurations for our database. And if we expand the resources folder and come back to the application.properties file, and here we can specify a bunch of configurations and settings for our general application. So a lot of times this application.properties file are very useful. For example, right now we can use it to set up some parameters for our database connection. So here we have a bunch of things we need to set up. The first one is spring.datasource.url, which is JDBC MySQL localhost 3306, and the database name is bookstore API. Okay, so suppose you have already downloaded MySQL database and you have a tool, MySQL tool. If you are using MacBook, using Mac, there's a good tool. It's called SQL Pro. Okay, it's a free of charge tool to use, but you can donate if you feel like to do that. It's very nice to use, but it only supports Mac system. So if you're using Mac, you can download this tool. If you are using Windows, you can go to MySQL Workbench. That's one of the tools that I use. It's not required. You can use whatever tools that you like. Okay. So you can download it and install it. Also for MySQL, you can go to this official website and download the latest version. You're gonna use the community edition. So it's very popular and it's free of charge. It's open source database provided by Oracle. And you can download this MySQL community server. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. I'll just jump over those parts. And if you're not familiar with MySQL, my website, go to my website, eldon.net/courses. Here's a list of courses that I teach. There's one course called Learn MySQL and Solve 42 Practical Problems. So a lot of people consider learning MySQL as a problem because after you understand some of the basics like select statement and those things, you kind of like still not getting the concept because you just know the theory, you don't know the real drill. So you have this 42 practical problems in this course, and after doing this problem, you should be very well, understanding on those concepts because it takes you to go through, real problems step by step. Okay, so it's not just about basic theory stuff in this course. Well, of course, it talks about theory, but after that, we will go through practical problems. I would highly recommend this course if you're interested on MySQL. Okay. Okay, so let's come back to our. So we have this URL to specify the address will be localhost 3306, and that's because the default port for MySQL is 3306. Okay, so in this case, before you start to run this application, Spring application, you need to have the MySQL server running, and also you need to have this database created. It doesn't need to have any content into it, but you just need to create a database, and after that, Hibernate will help us to create all those classes that marked with add entity annotation. Okay, so if you open your MySQL tool, for example, in mine, login, and we have created our bookstore API database. So let me just delete this database for now. Drop the schema. Okay, we're gonna create schema, and the name should be exactly the same. And we can see the bookstore API database created. There's nothing in it right now. The tables are just empty. Okay. And we need to specify the username and the password for our MySQL connection. In my case, the username is root, the password is sesame. It's not recommended to use directly the root account to access the database. It's better to use some other account, like a user account that you created. Okay, so if you want to really to do this in production, you want to use a user account instead of root, because it's not safe. But for now, for demonstration, I'll just keep it simple. And also here we have some configurations for test while idle equal to true, validation security select one. So this just keep the connection alive. And also we have the show SQL set to true. So this will basically show up the SQL statement that's been executed to the console. This is not required, but it can give you a concept. And then we have the Hibernate DDL auto set up to update. So basically there are three options: create, drop, and update. With update, database schema will be automatically updated according to the Java entities found in the project. So you want to set it as update. And lastly, we have the Hibernate dialect, because you know that we have different databases, right? We have MySQL, we have SQL, some other SQL databases, and different databases will have different, grammars. Although most grammars are the same, are similar to each other, but it does make some difference for different database. That's why we need to specify the dialect for specific database. And right now we are using MySQL 5, so we specify this MySQL 5 as dialect. Okay, so save this and come back, take a look at the server status. So the server is running. Okay, that's good. Let's come back to our Eclipse and start to run the application. Right click on this application and run as Spring Boot app. See if we can get past and run it correctly. Okay, we have some error. Let's scroll up and take a look. Error creating bean with name entity manager factory defining class pep source. So basically there's something wrong with the Hibernate persisting. Okay, and let's scroll down. And it says could not determine type for Java utility set at table row. So it's for row class. and specifically for the column user rows. Let's go take a look. Row. Okay, that's because we are missing a mapping annotation. Remember that we need to map two-way up. Cascade equals cascade type dot or fetch equals to fetch type dot lazy include those packages. Okay, and let's just try to run again. Stop the server and rerun it. Okay, this time it looks like it's working fine. And if you take a look at a log, you can see the Hibernate is kicking in, okay? And it's using the dialect as MySQL version 5. And we are defining the DDL schema as update. And basically, it specified those tables are not found. So the Hibernate will help us to create those. And after that, the Tomcat is started. So if we come back and take a look at the database, let's see. So first, we're gonna set this bookstore API as default schema. We're gonna refresh. You can see there are a bunch of tables created. The row table, the user table, and the user row table. And we have those tables created. That's good. Okay, that's pretty much for this lesson. All right. So we have established our security system at the backend. We have connected to our database, and we just need to add more content, add some records for users, so that we can have some user data to play with. And we're gonna do that in the next lesson. All right. See you guys in the next video. Bye.